Greetings viewers, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we've got my cousin's 2008 Subaru Forester 2.5 base model XXS. I'm not exactly even sure of the trim. Complaint is the engine's running bad, it's stalling out. Check engine lights on, cruise is on and flashing, and there's a mass air sensor code. Mass air sensor has been replaced several times now. They just put a genuine Subaru Denso sensor on it and has not alleviated the issue, so we're going to get into that. As well as that, going to do a full vehicle inspection, see what needs to be done to it. Currently at 133,000 miles on this 2008. Just got back from a quick test drive and I'm hearing a lot of wheel bearing noise, I think from the rear, and I'm hearing wind noise from the front here. Looks like we need a window gusset for the driver front, and likely at least one wheel bearing, but other than that we'll have to get into it, start checking things out and see what else we find. All right guys, so again this is a 2008 Forester 2.5. New mass air sensor has been installed. This is a genuine Denso. The wiring harness has been messed with. Have to look into that. Code was a P0102 for mass air flow circuit low. I've already had the lab scope out, as you see. Check for signature test. The issue is random stalling and poor performance, which would come with this. No signature test in the lab scope. It looks for 12 volts on the power supply, which should be the center of the 5 pins. Should see battery voltage with the key on, engine off. There's no voltage on the power in. So time to pull the wiring diagrams, go into the flow chart for the P0102 from the service manual. Pull all this off of here, see what we got going on in here, see if we got a wiring splice that's bad or something's shorted the power to the ground, see what's going on there. Hopefully this brand new mass air sensor hasn't been hurt, and hopefully the PCM is not hurt. All right, so pulled the carpet back and the trim out of the way to get in here to the PCM, because we're going to need to get a hold of it for some testing. I'll go ahead and whip these bolts out for the shield for the PCM. I got all this in the carpet. I don't know what that's about. I don't know if that's dye from leaking evaporator core, or someone throw up in here or something spilled or what, but got all that going on. Yep, still testing out the new high-speed fuel ratchet. PCM protector shield out of the way, and there's our prize. All right, got the laptop up, got the select monitor hooked to the car. First thing is start the engine and read the airflow sensor signal. Is the voltage less than 0.2 volts? Hush car, I know. All right, so all other models, each system check, engine control system. .5 single orbit cam. Let's go to where's data? That's a trouble. So current data display, normal sampling. So where is our mass air? Intake air temp 115. That seems about right. Mass air. Looking for mass air voltage. 0, completely dead, no voltage on the sensor, which is what I saw earlier with the lab scope. All right, so our sensor is completely dead. There is no sensor voltage. Is it less than 0.2? And that is correct. We have 0 volts. So now we need to check the power supply of the mass air sensor. Turn the ignition switch to off. Disconnect the connector from the mass airflow sensor. Turn the ignition switch on. Measure voltage between the mass airflow sensor and the air intake temperature sensor connector and engine ground. B3, number 3, plus engine ground negative. Is the voltage 10 volts or more? It should be. We should have battery voltage there, but I'm going to suspect no because we have 0. If we don't, it looks like repair harness connector. See if there's an open somewhere in the circuit. So that might be why our harness is all taped up. So let's go ahead and check that. So again, what we're going to do, connector B3, that is the connector for the mass air sensor. We're going to disconnect it, and we're going to check for battery voltage in the center pin, pin 3, and a good known ground with a key on. All right, B3 is disconnected. We're going to check for power on the center pin with our trusty Fluke multimeter. We've already hooked up to test. We're on DC voltage. We do have battery voltage there, hooked across the battery, so no issues with our meter. Always check your meter before you get started diagnosing stuff with a meter. All right, so positive on the center pin. We got plenty of room to front probe it. And I don't know how I'm gonna hold the camera on that center pin, and then on ground. I'm on ground right here. I'm on ground right here at the intake manifold. 0 volts, no power to our mass air sensor. All right, so got all that electrical tape off of our harness, and look at there, our center power wire for the mass air sensor has uh-oh in it. So we need to figure out what's going on in here. Possibly a bad splice or too much corrosion. We're gonna get all this pulled off and address whatever issue we have under here with this center power wire. So not great here. We've got a crimp butt connector. Look at the size gauge wire we have here, power in, and then what we have coming out here to the connector. Not sure if that's factory or if this is some kind of splice job. It might have been something Subaru did. If you note in this connector, all the pins are silver except that center pin. It is gold in color. So I don't know if this has been completely repinned with a smaller gauge wire, and this big fat wire is supposed to be what feeds. I'm not sure, but we're gonna have to cut out this, probe back here, see if we've got power here. If we've got power here and we don't have power here, our issue is in this splice, and then we'll continue to diagnose from there. If not, then we're gonna have to trace this wire back to the PCM and see if we've got an issue from the PCM. All right, so I cut that bad splice out. Looks like this is a shielded wire, and I'm not sure if that was actually connected with the type of splice butt connector they were using. So now I'm gonna go turn the key back on, hook the multimeter up, see if we've got power on this wire now. If we do have battery voltage, we'll go ahead and solder in a length of wire to correct the issue, and go about our testing from there once we return power to the mass airflow sensor. All right guys, so we went through and we spliced in a new wire, correctly soldered both ends, heat shrinked it, and plugged the sensor back in. Got the select monitor hooked up, got the engine running, already sounding a lot more stable. But the main thing is, if you recall before, under our airflow sensor voltage, we were reading 0 volts. We are now reading voltage from the sensor. And as we give throttle input, the mass air sensor responds as expected. Let's switch this up to graphing, and F2 again to start. So our mass air sensor voltage I believe we are good now. I'll do a couple more key on, key offs, just to see if the fault clears itself, because it is a hard fault. It'll automatically trigger at key on if you've cleared the code. As soon as you turn the key on and start the car, it will immediately trip if it's still an issue. But I believe we fixed it with just that one wire. But we'll go through and see if the check engine light goes off and report back what I find. So I did not clear the codes. I've done 3 starts and cut the car off, and as you see, cruise is gone and the check engine light is gone. pretty much confirmed our fix of that wiring issue. We do have a TPMS light on, unrelated. The engine is bogging down very low on startup. I believe we need to go ahead and do a throttle body cleaning and an idle relearn, and that'll clear that issue up, and we will be done with this Forester. But looks like all our issue was nothing in the PCM, nothing outside. The mass air sensor, of course, was brand new Subaru and good. Looks like all we had was that bad splice to fix in the sensor wiring. Real quick again, like I said, it did not clear the codes. We're going to go in through the select monitor and look at current diagnostic codes. And no DTCs are present. History codes, we should have that P0101. And the intake air sensor malfunction is due to disconnecting the pigtail for testing. So let's go ahead and clear these codes. And we will go through, as I said, probably clean the throttle body, take a look at it, and do an idle relearn procedure for the very low RPM on startup. So real quick, I'm gonna start it up and let you see this low RPM. The engine kind of bogs when it starts. Didn't want to start the first key on, and it kind of bogged down that start, so idle relearn should remedy that. All right guys, so we got the front end jacked up. We're under here taking a look at front suspension, engine, transmission, anything I see out of the ordinary, anything that's wrong. Haven't got the pry bar out to check the ball joints yet. Have not listened very carefully to the wheel bearings. Although it sounds fairly quiet on the front, I think the wheel bearing noise I was hearing was on the rear. Sway bar end links are loose, knocking. Need to go ahead and replace those. I was noticing knocking noise, chattering noise coming from the front end when I drove it. Aside from that, everything is pretty much clean as can be. Transmission is nice and dry. Sorry for these odd angles. No leaks from the axle seals, no oil leaking down here where the rear main seal is. All clear to go over here on the left hand cylinder for the head gaskets. Do have a little bit of leakage here on the steering rack. Not sure if that's the rack itself leaking or if there's an oil leak above it leaking down onto it, which is more common than not with Subarus. Time belt and water pump replacement was done by me not too long ago. Already replaced the cam covers, rocker covers. We do have a leaking head gasket here on the right hand cylinder head. As you see right there, external oil leak from the head gasket leaking. As we can see here by the protruding bit of the head gasket, you see that single layer of steel, and then you see the black coating on either side or the gray coating on either side kind of peeling away. These are the factory graphite coated single layer head gaskets. This is a 2008 with 133,000 miles. So it is right about the time you start seeing external leaks as we see here. Other than that, everything on the front end pretty much checks out. Not seeing anything abnormal, any kind of leaks. Everything's mainly dry. Nothing super bad jumping out. I think we need to do a transmission service. Time for a drain and refill. Not sure when that last service was done, nor the front or rear differential gear oil. Probably going to bring that up as well. See if there's any service history known on it. So as you may be able to see, may not be able to see, ball joint boot is busted pretty bad, but there is no play, there is no movement in that ball joint. So not exactly necessity to change it yet, but for 30 bucks a piece, might as well go ahead and put ball joints on both sides. Both boots are busted. We'll bring that up. And there you can see the sway bar end link boots that are busted, and there is play in those when I do move them by hand. All right guys, under the rear of the car now, and everything looks really good. No rust. This car originally started out in Pennsylvania, but it's been in South Carolina the majority of its life. As you can tell, from that lower link bolt that are such a pain to get out in the north. So wheel bearing links on the back look to be in decent condition. Having trouble figuring out which wheel bearing is making the noise, or if it's possibly something in the drive line. Luckily the rear is drum brake, so probably gonna take the back wheels off, pull the drums off, and see if I can pinpoint a little bit better with my stethoscope, my mechanic stethoscope, because I listened to the front wheel bearings and they were very quiet, and when I drove it, it sounded like it was in the rear, and it seemed to be coming from the left rear, if I recall correctly. So tear down a little bit and see if we can locate the issue. Also heard some screeching in the back, so the drum brakes might need new shoes as well. All right, pretty sure the noise is on the rear passenger side, the right rear. Let's go ahead and pull this drum off, just single it out a little bit more. Sure you northern viewers still hate me. How easy this drum pulls off. So surprisingly, our shoes are still in fairly decent condition. We'll check the wheel cylinders to see if they got any leaks, see if that needs to be replaced. All right, checking the wheel cylinders really quickly. Definitely something that's going to need to be addressed. So basically all I do is pull this little boot back. Should be dry in there. A little bit of grease is fine. That side is perfectly normal. But this side, es no bueno. As we see, the brake fluid is running out. Wheel cylinder needs to be replaced. If we're going to do that, might as well go ahead and put a new set of shoes on it. So we'll pull the drum off of the driver's side, check it as well, and again, confirm that this is the wheel bearing. Looking at it, this is still a press in. I don't believe these went to a bolt-in design until the chassis changed, which was, I believe, the 2009 or 2010 model on the Forester. So unfortunately for me, that's a press-in wheel bearing. All right, guys, and that does it for this video on the P0102 mass air sensor fault on this 2008 Forester. As you saw in the inspection, we've got several other things going on with it, and I'm sure we'll have future videos on those repairs. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.